Astrodome. He was caught up in a kite string on a tree, so I had to climb up there with another friend and take him down. And being that I was a smaller guy, because he was about 6'6" and weighed, about 250, and so he couldn't climb the tree, so I climbed up there and got him down. And once I secured him, then I held him until I took him to the clinic at the zoo, and then she was able to inject him with something to relax him, and then he let go of my arm. But by that time, I could feel his talons going through the gloves. They're very powerful birds. And this is what I rescued, a red-tailed hawk. And these are around everywhere, all throughout the United States. And I didn't think they would go after fish. And again, my wife says, hey, there's a bird out in the pond. And I said, okay, let me go see. And then I saw, it's a hawk, a red-tailed hawk. And they're huge. Now, these are the largest hawks in the United States. And they're beautiful birds. But they also go for fish. And so he waited there in the shallows until he was trying to get it, but I shoot him away, so. And then they had a nest in our neighborhood. But since then, another hawk moved in, a smaller hawk, and I haven't been able to identify it. And he chased the red-tailed hawks out. And it's a smaller hawk, and he attacks people. They attack people.
Really?
During when they're breeding and have a nest. So they're in the neighborhood, but I would sit in my front in the living room on a chair, and I could see out one of the windows, and I'd see people ducking, and I'd see them get hit and all, And I said, what the heck is this? I went out there, and sure enough, it was that hawk, and it's it's probably half the size of a red tail, and they're vicious, whatever these little hawks are. And so when my neighbors and I, we go mow our lawns, we wear hard hats, because they would hit you on the head hard. It hurt, But I watch the people, they'd be walking their dog, and all of a sudden, bam, they get hit, and then they would look, they didn't know what it was. And people thought they were getting hit by a rock or something. Some kid was throwing a rock or something. No, they were the hawks, and they're very fast. And these hawks, what I noticed, they'll go ahead and they'll go into a shrub, and I would think they'd break their wings or something. They're designed to do that. This particular hawk, like I said, I haven't been able to identify it, so hopefully we'll be able to get to. Snakes, everybody knows snakes, right?
I got to add a comment here. Those who listen to Bob Webster on the radio, I haven't heard him say this in a long time, but he usually will say, when talking about snakes, is that every snake is dangerous because he could break his leg running away from him.
One more thing I have to go back to birds is that all birds are protected from the government, the Federal Migration Act. Even possession of a feather on one of these birds, and the only birds that I think you can have feathers is a starling, a sparrow, an English sparrow, and a grackle. The rest are protected. And so even if you have a feather, you can get fined for it. So that's
well, and don't think you're doing good by deciding to shoot the blue herons. That's bad.
It's a federal offense, and if you get caught, it's 10 years plus probably $10,000 in a fine. If you get caught.
Yeah.
Mom's reward.
Or if they see you, with one of those feathers or something, and you happen to be fishing or going somewhere, and a ranger sees you, and they'll ask you, where'd you get the feather? And just by possession, you'll be fined. Now, the East African background snake is in East Texas. We don't see too many around here, and they're very beautiful, but they're very venomous. And you really can't, I can't really tell people, if you get bitten, mark the area if you can, and then don't go and bite or make the little X's and bite. You mark it, right where about inch where he bit you, and if you have a marker or something that you can mark it with, so this way they can see the progression of the venom going to your system. And you can apply a tourniquet, to help. And the other thing you can also do is ice pack, real cold, so it'll slow down the intrusion of the venom, and then get to the nearest hospital, first aid place, because you're going to be in a hurt, and it doesn't take long. And
Do they like fish too?
pardon?
Do you see them in the water at all? These rattlesnakes?
They will go in the water. They will go in the water.
Huh.
That's not a problem. They can swim. So, where I go to West Texas with my buddies when they go hunting, the biggest one we saw over there was 6 feet. Photographed that one, but it was a western diamondback that you see out here. And you see the black and white stripes on the end. The male will have about 4. The female will have more black stripes. If it has more than 4 black stripes, it's a female. And this one happens to be a female right here. And the other thing that one of the game wardens out there told us, they said, be careful because of the feral hogs. The rattlesnakes get eaten by the feral hogs. And the feral hogs, it doesn't do anything to them because their skin is so thick. But now the rattlesnakes, what they adapted to was that they don't rattle anymore. In those areas where you have a lot of feral hogs, they don't rattle anymore because that would give them away. The hogs have very keen hearing. They can't see well, but they can smell and hear very well. And when they hear it rattle, they go right to it and they can eat it. So that was the other new thing that I learned. And so when we're out there, in fact, this one, when we came upon it, it didn't rattle. It was there on a flat rock, sitting on a flat rock. And it was in a gully, and that's one of our areas that we walked through. And one of the guys says, watch it, there's a rattlesnake. And we looked, it could have been any one of us, walking through there. But luckily we didn't get it, because it's 85 miles to the nearest hospital where we go. So. And no roads, so.
They have to send a helicopter for you.
Yeah, that's true. Now the copperhead, this is up everywhere. I mean, I used to think they were just in the south part of town, but my nephew lives and my sister live over here off of 1604 near Hyder, and they had one in the backyard. And I said, I don't believe it. I said, no. And then my sister in the Carolinas, she sent me a picture. She almost got bit by one because she was gardening, and with the mulch, it looked just like it. And she saw something move, and so she backed off. And luckily, she did not get bitten. But it was about a 3 or 4 foot snake. And in North Carolina, what they do is it's against the law to kill a snake. So they have to capture it or get someone to remove it and release it. So my brother-in-law got a bucket, got it in there, and then released it further down the road. But where you have one snake, you have more. That's one thing. But these are also highly venomous. Also the cottonmouth, which is also known as a water moccasin. Now these are always in water, and these are the most aggressive snake. They will come for you. If you don't get out of the way, they're not afraid. They'll come at you. And that's one thing bad about these, is that they show no fear. So. But most of the time, if you leave them alone, if you just stand still, they'll let you off. That's if you're nervous.
As I'm screaming
And the
loud.
coral snakes.
Screaming.
We have a lot of these in Houston, and they were all over the place. We had them even in the zoo. People would be walking visitors, and they said, "Hey, one of your snakes got away." And said, "Okay, we'll go get him in a minute." So security would go and they'd get the reptile people, and they'd go and catch them, and then they'd take them and release them, or they would feed them to king cobras because that's what they eat. So, but on this one, I don't know if y'all know about the little rhyme about
Yes.
black and yellow.
You're old
kill a
enough to
fellow.
know it.
Yeah. You see the black and the yellow. Now the next.
I thought it was red and yellow.
Well, you can say you red and yellow or black and yellow. if you look at the other one,
There you go.
red and black, a friend of Jack's.
Yeah.
You know, so.
So, Richard, when we first moved to our property back in '03, and my dog immediately found a coral snake. I didn't know if it was a good snake or like this or the bad snake, and I couldn't remember the rhyme. Was it red and black kills Jack, yellow black is a friendly fellow, kills a fellow? What is the, how does
Red,
this
yellow,
go?
And he said, just leave it alone.
Well, so Keith has saved the day, and he said, if you go back to the coral snake, if you have yellow and red, the stoplight colors, if they're together, the stoplight colors are together, then that's bad.
That's bad.
That's
Yes.
bad.
Yeah.
By the time I think about
I
it, it's over.
couldn't remember the.
Oh, but I couldn't remember. Kills a fellow,
Yes,
friendly
red,
fellow,
yellow,
loves
yellow
Jack,
fellow.
kills Jack.
And we've never seen a milk snake. I don't know if they're very common at all, but we've seen a lot of coral
Yeah,
snakes.
in New Mexico, Colorado, here in San Antonio also. They're around.
Really?
Yeah.
Are they in the same habitat area?
Yeah,
Go figure.
yeah. And I have a little niece, and I'm getting her really interested. Since she was very little, she's in the 4th grade now. And I don't know what about her. I'm gonna start calling her Medusa. Because everywhere we go, she finds a snake for some reason. And this is at my brother-in-law's house, you know? He said, hey, Uncle, look. And I go, there's a lizard. And I look, and she goes, no, it's not a lizard, Uncle. And then I said, we have a picture of one. It's a ribbon snake, because my brother-in-law has a bunch of fountains, decorative fountains, and it's around there. And he throws goldfish in there to keep the mosquito populating that well. Guess what? They're in there feeding on the goldfish.
Yeah.
So that's why they're there. But yeah.
That's why you have to keep putting them in there.
But these are non-venomous. The coral snake is also really venomous, but they have to gnaw on you. And a lot of people say, "Oh, it's not doing anything." No, he's injecting you once they gnaw on you. It's not like the viper that they strike and pierce you. But these will gnaw on you. These will also bite. And the bad thing about these, they're not venomous. Probably get it infected. But when you pick these up, most of the snakes, they defecate on you. And the smell it's bad. I mean, I tried washing my hands with Clorox, and you can still smell it. It's bad. The only thing I found out is that skunk is gone. They sell that enzyme, and for dogs to bathe them when they get sprayed by skunk, and that seems to neutralize.
What is it?
Skunk be gone. It's a kind of like a shampoo, like a dog bath or a pet bath.
Yeah, there's skunk shampoos
Yeah,
in
Miracle
PetSmart,
something.
and then you have the Miracle. Nature's Miracle also has a skunk one. Those are pretty good for dogs. Yeah.
Just tomato soup doesn't work, or tomato juice doesn't
No,
work.
it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
Our white spit turned pink after when the white bathed in tomato juice. Didn't
No, just
I have to add that the milk snakes are also obviously found near dairy farms. Lots around the dairy farms.
That's where they got their name. Could be.
And these, if you're at the lake or river or anywhere, you'll see these everywhere. And a lot of people mistake them for a rattlesnake, but they're not rattlesnakes, they're water snakes. They will also bite, but they're not venomous. But they do eat a lot of fish. So if you live in the Medina Lake, Canyon Lake areas, or any lake, or large pond, you will have some of these. And I asked myself, they were never here before I built my pond. How come they're all not coming? And sure enough, you build a pond, you got a water source, you got a food source, cover source. So guess what? You have it.
They get pretty big.
These get about 4 feet. They get about 4 feet.
It's an amazing photo.
But they're beautiful.
Whatever.
These are the ones you see. At my house, my dachshunds would go after these, and they, get them. These are the ribbons that you have at eastern, western, and there's many species depending as to where you're at, and they're different colors too, as far as their lines.